And we are live, guys. Welcome to another live stream from the Women of High Value channel. My name is Joseph Darling. Today we're talking again about femininity and masculinity and really going into the depth and of the basics, basically. Like, we want to completely and massively understand the polarity between the genders. Because the more we understand that polarity, the happier in life we're going to be. I can promise you that. As women are allowed to remain in their femininity from youth and to stay in that femininity throughout their lives, and they'll be able to retain more of their youth. They'll be able to retain more of their beauty. They'll be able to be attractive to the opposite gender, which is men, which is really what this whole life is about, if you really think about it. We want families to stay together, right? Families stay together based upon attraction. The more attracted a woman is to a man, the more obsessed she's going to be about him. Obsession equals loyalty. The more loyal she is to her man, the more the family is glued together for eternities, right? It's the same thing with the man. The man is... It's a bit differently for the man, though, because it's not only attraction that keeps him responsible and committed and loyal to his family and to his women. However, attraction helps, right? If he's attracted to his woman, it massively helps towards his motivation, towards his drive, towards basically him being rewarded for the efforts that he is putting in. Okay, but if he's masculine, he's going to be disciplined and responsible no matter what. And so let's go a bit deeper into this. Remember that you guys can chat. You guys can ask questions, and I'm going to answer them most probably at the end of the video. But comment down below, since this is a live stream after all. So, if we talk about femininity, we need to think about really your childhood, right? Because at that point in time, you cared for other people naturally because that's what you naturally did. Like, if you look at kids, literally, if you look at kids that are unburdened, which is the definition of femininity, unburdened, carefree, as you can see down here, right? When women are, when both men and women, okay, boys and girls in their childhood are carefree, unburdened, they're going to have these attributes in many ways. Fortunately, they don't have a sex drive, so the carnal and unbridled, well, unbridled kind of happens in the sense that they're all over the place, right? But the carnality doesn't really kick in before puberty, which is fantastic. So kids don't have to worry about that, which means that they naturally gravitate towards everything else that's on this chart, okay? Which is, a child is soft. Of course, because it's being nurtured by a mother. We're talking now unburdened children. They're feminine, and they're soft because their mothers have been soft with them, right? If the mothers are hard with their kids, then they're going to be hard. Does that make sense? Okay, and gentle. If you basically show kids, which you naturally do, like to babies and toddlers, we're naturally gentle. If we're not gentle with toddlers and kids, there's something wrong with us. And no offense to women, but that happens to mothers who are massively burdened. They sometimes hurt their kids, not on purpose, not because they want to hurt their kids, but they do that because they're so massively burdened themselves. They've gone over to the dark force. Or the dark side of masculinity. Again, not their fault, not of their own doing, but just simply being burdened. That's what drives them towards hurting people, and especially hurting the people that they love. That's not them having been allowed to remain in their feminine state. If they were allowed to remain in their feminine state because someone else was protecting and providing and making sure that her emotional environment was secured, then she would remain with all of these qualities of femininity. So, same thing with vulnerable. with sharing. Okay, and now you sometimes see kids in the kindergarten and school and stuff that they don't want to share, or kids that don't want to share with their siblings. Yeah, that happens. But why does it happen? The reason why it happens very often is because there's a scarcity of resources. If you see kids that and there's no scarcity of resources and they're given the same thing equally, and it's not like, oh, but she got this and I got that, why do I want that instead, then that means that there's a scarcity of resources. Why couldn't they both get the exact same thing, right? If there's abundance of resources, then you have the ability to give every single person, especially in the family, because there's not that many kids, you're able to give them the exact same thing. And you're able to provide what is necessary for them to feel that everything can be shared because I have so much. I have so much abundance and we have the exact same thing. So it's not like I want the thing that that person has because I also have it. So that lowers the value of the thing that I couldn't have because the other person has it, but I can't, right? So that's a problem with resources. That's not a problem with the kids. Oh, you're not sharing. Like, to tell your kids, why are you not sharing? Why are you not sharing? There's a reason. Because there's a scarcity of resources. That's why I'm not sharing, right? If we look at this from a child's perspective and the children's eyes, then you'll notice that that's basic. Like, it's completely normal, really, when you think about it. Which makes it also a feminine trait as they grow up. Let's continue. Beauty. Okay, this is a bit more for the girls as they grow up a little bit. You know, even when they're young, though, they care more about that than boys. Okay, so there's some aspect of testosterone that is going on in boys that leans them towards male things and not necessarily towards beauty or towards dance or towards singing and towards all the entertainment thing. Boys, if they truly are allowed to be themselves in their childhood, they will stick to guns and they'll stick to trucks and they'll stick to repairing things or building Legos and building this and that and the other. And do you understand what I mean? You allow kids to do what kids do, and maybe lean them towards a little bit in the correct direction. And I'm not saying leaning them a lot. It's just like giving them the possibilities. In fact, I believe that boys, if they're given the choice between playing with Barbies and beauty and makeup and play house or whatever, and they're given trucks and guns and fighting and swords and all that stuff, if you give a child the option, a boy, let's say, for example, and you haven't nudged him in any direction, but the mother is feminine and the father is masculine, the correct dynamics in terms of their parents, the boy will naturally gravitate towards the things that are more boyish. Okay, that's just my experience from what we've seen. But we have 3 kids, and so it's interesting to see what they do. But this is how my kids have been. They've just naturally gravitated to the things that are more feminine or more masculine, depending on their gender. So I think in their childhood, girls gravitate more towards beauty and dressing up and things like that. So let's see. Nurturing. Okay, children nurture automatically. If you've seen a child that loves its mother, if the mother's crying, the kids will naturally gravitate towards wanting to give her a hug. Why? Because this is what she's been doing to them continuously. Well, what happens when the child cries and the mother is actually feminine? She nurtures. The mother nurtures. And so all of the kids basically are naturally gravitating towards femininity because that's what they experience as children. Right? If they were instead cast out, they have no parents, they're orphans, and they're growing up on the street, however, okay, that's going to create a lot of problems. That's going to create more of this. Not necessarily for life, but just in their childhood. And because they have to, like, if boys, for example, are cast out on the street and they have to provide for themselves with no one to take care of them, they're not going to be masculine as adults. That's what's interesting about this. Because they're forced too early to be masculine. So they're forced to be rough. Okay? They have to go through the hard stuff. They have to fight for their lives. They maybe even have to steal or whatever because they're not allowed to work and they haven't been taught better. I'm talking about orphans here. Okay? Obviously, this is an anomaly because most kids, fortunately, have a mother at least that takes care of them and that raises them until they're of age to work themselves. But it happens a lot, actually, in poor places. It happened a lot more, 100, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, but it still happens this day and age because of poverty and because of things happening to parents, of course. But this being rough, trying to be disciplined as children, being direct, having to be a leader way too early, thinking practically, what can I do today to get food to eat, all of this is not good for kids to develop. Because if kids develop them too early, especially boys, it's basically nature forcing them to have these things, which means that they never get a childhood. So what's going to happen? Well, they're going to remain this, actually, but it's going to be warped. It's going to be a warped concoction between the masculine and the feminine, because they've grown up masculine, but they never experience being taken care of. So they have their feminine reward that they're trying to get, and you combine that with the testosterone and the masculine, and it becomes warped. And it's not good. Poverty is horrific. The orphans going through what they go through is horrific. Okay, so I wouldn't wish that upon anyone, but I'm just explaining how this works. So anyway, going back to children, if they're in the correct environment, they will be emotional. Actually, they're going to be emotional no matter what. But in general, they're not able to control their emotions, right? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? That they can't control their emotions? It's a good thing. Why? Because kids are perfect. If they're allowed to be raised up in an environment where they're taken care of, where someone loves them, where they're given food, they're given clothing, they're given shelter, they're given love and support and encouragement and adoration, then them being emotional is simply feedback to the people that are responsible for them that something is good or something that's happening is bad. So if a child is crying, and that child has been grown in a good environment, then why is that child crying? There's a reason. There's a why. There's always a why. There's always a reason for whatever happens under the sun and under the moon, for that matter. But we've got to figure that out. Why is that child crying? But it's not just a why. Why? Stop crying. It's more of a why. This is interesting. I'm very curious to find out why this child is crying right now. Is it because he hasn't eaten? Okay. Try to give food. Okay, it's not it. Is it because he's not been sheltered? Or is he under the sun? Or is the sun shining brightly in his eyes when he's in the trolley as the mother is, walking him, and he can't sleep because the sun is in his eyes, right? What is the reason for the child crying? We got to figure it out. Is it that he didn't sleep? He didn't have a proper sleep routine? Is it the fact that he didn't get the boobie, or he's getting the wrong kinds of food? Maybe the food that's given him is not, maybe he wants the boobie instead of the formula, right? Like, I'm just trying to give you guys an idea of how we were thinking as we raised our children. Just being massively curious to figure out what's going on. Why? And then digging and digging and digging deep. And the cool thing about it is that in this day and age with internet, you actually can figure out a lot of what's going on. So at least that's been my experience of how it works with kids. What else? What else? That's the emotional part. But it's also in terms of good things. If the child is laughing and is giggling and is playing and everything's wonderful, you know for a fact that you as a parent have done something good. You've provided a correct environment. Everything's wonderful. And as a result, the child is being able to be carefree, doesn't have to worry about anything. It's provided for. It can grow itself in self-worth, self-confidence. And as a result, once you hit the teenage years, if the children have been taking care of this child properly, given the attention, blah, blah, and been there for the child, then the natural aspect, what happens is that women will naturally gravitate towards femininity. And femininity will naturally gravitate them towards finding a masculine man. If a girl is feminine, she will gravitate towards a masculine man. That's natural. That's nature. Now, if the masculine man that she attracts is in her teenage years and in high school, and the boy actually turns out to be feminine, because he hasn't mastered the masculine principles yet, then he might screw her over because of his carnality and his being unbridled, right? And him being emotional, so he basically follows his emotions instead of understanding the past, present, and future of what's going to happen, what are going to be the consequences of what he's doing to this girl, right? Then he might screw her massively over. Well, what happens? Well, this guy will still remain in his femininity because he's being rewarded for it, right? Sexuality is a reward for guys, so they're going to keep doing it. But from a woman's perspective, if she gets screwed over, then she will begin to understand that she needs to protect herself. She needs to make sure that she provides for herself because she can't trust this guy. This guy maybe slept with her and left her. This guy maybe slept with her and then slept with someone else while she thought that they were an item and that they were together. So that's basically leaving her, rejecting her. Or basically just being rejected by multiple men over time. This creates masculinity and burden in women, making them more and more responsible for their own lives, which is a bad thing. Because the less a woman trusts in a man, or trusts in men in general, the less she'll be able to trust the right guy when he comes along. And if that trust is inhibited by her past previous experiences, then she's going to miss out on having love, like true love, for the rest of her life. Which is a huge, massive loss. Which is not her fault. Which was the guy's fault that screwed her over. Or her father's fault for whatever he did to her, in her childhood. Or for him leaving her, or whatever happened. Okay, so I'm still talking about the girls here. The goal is for girls to be feminine. If they find the right guy, and he provides an environment where she can be obsessed with him because of his power, because that's what women are attracted to, is confidence, but in other words, the ability to do. That's what confidence really is. Confidence basically means that I've done this before, I can do it again. No problem. Okay? And, oh, there's a problem here? I can solve it. No problem. So, that's what confidence is. Women love that, right? You know that. and power is truly that's the word for it. Women are attracted to power. Femininity is attracted to power because then femininity knows for a fact that she'll be securely provided for, and she's going to be protected, right? So she's going to have security, she's going to have equality, and she's going to have the ability to be emotionally free. Because if she's protected, then she's not going to be rejected by anyone because of her emotions being allowed to be expressed. So simply put, femininity in the environment of a man of high value who's masculine, who's provided the correct environment, will provide obsession in femininity. That obsession equals to loyalty. And if that femininity is loyal, and she desires to share, okay, then she'll find out that she doesn't want her man to herself. As you'll find out over time, the more you study this channel, the more you'll understand your femininity. You'll understand your carnality. It doesn't sound right to a lot of women that I should be sharing my man. However, as you do so, as you share your man, and now I'm not talking about sharing your man with any woman. I'm talking about you sharing your man with someone you trust, someone you love, someone who's your best friend. And not just one best friend, but two best friends. So that you are 3 women, 1 man. If you haven't been on my channel before, we explained about the 3 in love system on this channel, which is an absolutely fantastic system. It is a perfect system for imperfect people. Okay? Because it will lead you to having passion, peace, and prosperity. Literally. But those are the 2 most important things. I wanted to explain now about the 3 things, or the 4 things that men are after if they want a woman in their lives. They want loyalty, number 1. They're responsible for her being loyal by the environment that they create. But that's the number 1 thing that they want from a woman. Okay? So just so you know that that's something you can work on. Number 2, men desire a woman that desires to share him with her best friends. So 3 women, and once those 3 are locked in, the man commits for life to these 3, and he'll never, ever, ever want to jeopardize those relationships, which means that he'll never, ever sleep with or flirt with anyone else but his 3 women. Okay? So that these 3 women can have security and know for a fact that he's going to stick around. He's not going to do anything that's going to jeopardize that relationship. And he's going to provide. He's going to protect. They're going to have security in that. And because he's masculine, he's trustworthy. If that's the case, then the women have nothing to fear. And if they have nothing to fear, then they are allowed to remain in their femininity. It's amazing. They can be soft because they don't have to be hard to protect themselves. They don't have to fight over scarce resources. Well, the man's going to be a scarce resource. Well, in many ways, that's a good thing because he's gone the majority of the day. But when he comes home, he'll definitely treat you guys equally. Why? Because he wants to preserve the peace. Right? He wants peace in his life. There's one thing most important for a man is peace. He wants peace in his life and he wants consistency. And if he does something to jinx that 3 in love relationship that these women have to each other and to him, he messes everything up. But there are things that he can do to make sure that the women live in harmony continuously forever. And the biggest thing, by the way, is taking the blame. The man takes the blame for every single thing that goes wrong in that family. And a lot of it has to do with resources, including himself as a resource. If he doesn't give each equally what they need, there's going to be issues because of scarcity. That's the only time there's issues, people. If the man provides massively, has a massively strong financial foundation, he practices SR, which stands for semen retention, which means that he'll last forever, for as long as he wants. You don't have to worry about him losing in it, right? Or not performing in the bedroom because he practices the arts of the bedroom. That's crucial. It's important. Or else they can't share, right? And there's a lot more to it, but simply put, that's the biggest thing. And he needs to be gone the majority of the time in order for him to remain mysterious. If that's the case, the women now are loyal. The women now are sharing, which is one of the biggest things that men are looking for in a woman. So now you score massively bonus points for yourself. If he knows for a fact that you're never, ever, ever going to leave him, that's hard if he provides a sucky environment. But it's easy if he provides an amazing environment. And if you say, yes, please, I'll share you with my best friends and we're going to have a fun time doing it, right? Then massive extra bonus points. Those two things, girls, are way more important than anything else. After that comes femininity. And after femininity comes beauty. Okay? Yes, men want hot women. Yes, men want beauty, right? But you guys will naturally do that because you naturally gravitate towards it. You've done it all of your lives. And the only reason why you might be on towards the masculine side of things is because you weren't giving the environment that you were supposed to get in your childhood, in your teenage years, and in your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s. Right? Who's helping you to be feminine? If no one's giving you the resources you need in order for you to remain in your vulnerable state, then you're not going to be feminine, you're going to be masculine. And men are going to be turned off by it. Not your fault. It's their fault for not providing. It's our fault, right? Cool part about femininity, though, if you have these traits, it makes you beautiful. Did you know that? The more feminine you are, the more unburdened you are, the more vulnerable, the more gentle, the more soft, the more smile you have on your face, the more emotional you are, the less you control your emotions, which means the more you express your emotions, which means he gets the full truth. He gets all of the feedback that he needs in order for him to help you. If you are restricting your emotions because you're scared of what he's going to think, or you're scared of what other people are going to think, and I'm talking now within the home. Outside of the home, yes, some things are public that shouldn't be public, right? In a family, there are some things that you keep within the four walls of the home. But he should know everything that goes on inside the four walls of the home, and he should know everything that goes on about you guys outside of the home, right? Because then he has necessary feedback. He understands what's going on, and he can act accordingly and make sure that he protects and preserves your happiness and your femininity, right? But at any given time, if he provides a horrible environment consistently over a long period of time, it's time to go, right? And I have nothing against women leaving men behind who suck, who are basically feminine themselves and don't recognize it. Okay, so we've spoken a lot about this, but it's really important that we understand femininity, because that's what produces life. That's what produces happiness. That's what produces joy. That's what produces reward for men. That's what produces everything that's worth it in life. Like, it's so amazing. Feminine is so beautiful. And we want it in our lives. And without femininity, there's nothing. There's some guys on Instagram these days that are saying that, success can be attained through hard work, discipline, and all that stuff. And it's not behind every successful man is an amazing woman, And I'm like, bro, okay, that's ridiculous, right? Why do men do what they do? Because they want female worship. They want women in their lives, okay? And they want a family. They want to make sure their name is passed on to future generations so that they can be remembered, right? It's like, what else are you becoming successful for? You got to understand what's happening in men's brains. And if men are saying, no, I don't want to take care of femininity, they're screwed. Because they're not going to be able to compete with the men that have women, beautiful women in their lives who worship and massively elevate him to the nth degree and motivates him to get more and more and more and more power. Does that make sense? There's no man that can compete with that. So the guys who end up having 3 women in love that are feminine is going to outshine and outperform any male that doesn't have that. And you get to be a part of that. Okay, let's talk about masculinity for a second. Masculinity, look at those. Look at the guy behind there. I mean, come on. For you guys. Okay, masculinity is discipline, chiseled, right? Being direct. He knows what he wants and he takes it, right? But he also understands property rights. If it's not his, he doesn't touch it. okay? But he's direct. He's rough, okay? That's normal. That's good. Why? Because he's out there. He's building. He's competing against other men. He's facing difficulties. He's being rejected on a daily basis. That's going to make him hard-skinned. You want that, okay? Nothing can penetrate this guy. It's impossible to get through to him. And the only way you get through to him is through your female worship. Is through you bringing that out of him, okay? Where he basically opens up small, itty-bitty, vulnerable things in the home, right? Because out there, he's a ballistic missile, okay? That's what you want. Because he'll be able to compete if he does that. Out there is a poker game, right? I'm not talking about poker in general, but out there, he has to be mysterious. He has to keep his, business secrets to himself. He has to make sure that he makes the right deals. In order for him to make the right deals, he has to have, a good hand that he doesn't show to anyone. So I'm just explaining now how men should be thinking, thinking art of war, etc., etc. Okay, focused, laser focus. What can I say about that? A man who's diversified, you may know for a fact that he's feminine. A man who's diversified, you may know for a fact he's feminine. So a guy who doesn't allow him, or who allows himself to get more than 3 women, what's up with that? He's feminine. Because he can't control himself. Because he wants the new and shiny all the time. No. Masculinity takes responsibility. He's focused. Why? Because he wants loyalty. Right? If he's not loyal, he's not going to receive loyalty back. Because the women in his life, when he's not loyal, and they're loyal, they're trying to be loyal, eventually it's going to break their hearts. They can't do it anymore because they can't handle that he's with some other chick somewhere, I don't know where, and he's doing things that I have not approved of. Okay? Now you'd say that has to do with 3 in Love. Not at all. In 3 in Love, everyone knows all the time what's going on, right? Except when there's yeah. But do you understand what I'm saying here? The problem is if he's with someone that doesn't love you back. That he's with someone that doesn't care about you. That he's with someone that doesn't seek to bring you towards equality again once she has gotten her share. Do you understand what I mean? So, a man who's focused on his purpose, not focused on one woman, but focused on his purpose, and then providing massively for the women of his life and his children. Okay, he's on the right track. A listener. A masculine man is a listener. Does that mean that he cares? He has the ability to care, okay? But he also has the ability to not care about stuff that's not important. Like, for example, your past, right? A lot of women these days have pasts. Well, a masculine man will be able to listen, and he'll be able to throw out the trash that he doesn't want to have part of his life or your life, but he'll listen, and he'll make sure that you're provided for from that aspect. Stoic. Actually, my wife mentioned that I should look up the meaning stoic. It's right here. A person who can endure pain or hardship without showing their feelings or complaining. Man, amazing, right? That's what you want from a man. Aren't you sick and tired of guys that are like, I'm being muted, and like crying all the time? Or guys that are like suffering and struggling and, oh, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. You don't want that in your life. You want someone who can have a straight face, get stuff done, right? Power, confidence. It's the Okay, leadership. You can't be masculine unless you're a leader, which is why if your guy only has the ambition of having a job in his life and that's it, and he also wants you to work, you can know for a fact he's not masculine. Should you leave him? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you have a guy and he's not interested in building his own business and having massive amounts of employees and creating jobs instead of just taking a job, what the heck is going on? He's not masculine. Okay? In my book. A masculine man will either have the massive ambition to create an organization where he has massive amounts of employees, okay, or he already has it. So, just an interesting thing to think about. Why? Because if he is a leader, then you know for a fact that he's going to be able to lead this family. Your family. Why would you want a man who's not able to lead anyone else, but he has you? And he has kids. So you guys are basically his guinea pigs. He gets to practice on you guys. Horrible, right? You want a man who's gone through it, who knows how to speak to people, who knows how to lead, and who knows how to govern well. Not just from being a middle manager, but from being the founder, from being the CEO that wants to get this company far into the future in the next 50 years. That's a different type of leader than a guy who's a salesperson, which is basically what middle managers are. Oh, if you don't do this, then you're fired. No, you want a guy who understands people and who understands that he's responsible for every single employee that he has, and it's his fault if something goes wrong with his employees. He needs to be very careful about who he employs, though. Okay, mysterious. Okay, a guy needs to be gone at least 60 hours a week from the home. Because if he's not, how can he be mysterious for you guys? He's always around. In 3 in Love, that doesn't happen. In 3 in Love, the man is gone the vast majority of time. Of course, you know, a couple of weeks vacation during the year or a little bit more if you guys choose to travel the first years of 3 in Love or, you know, whatever. Okay, fine. But he'll also be mysterious during that time and still work because you can't stop a masculine man from working. He can't stop himself. He wants more power, and he wants more power every minute of the day, which is a good thing because that means he's going to be able to give you what you want, okay, and get what he wants. As long as he doesn't do it dishonestly, as long as he's still trustworthy, integral, etc., fantastic. You want a man to get as much power as possible to do good things. The triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing, which means that the triumph of good is for a good man to do massive amounts of good, right? Makes sense. Okay, practical. He thinks logistics. He's very practical. You know, what's the best solution for this problem, etc. He's steady, which means that in the bedroom, it's just an example. It's a fantastic example. Whatever happens in the bedroom is a great example of what happens in real life. What do we want? We want exponential growth of success, all right? Just like we want exponential growth of pleasure in the bedroom. We want consistency, showing up consistently for a long period of time to create that exponential growth. Well, guess what? In the bedroom, you want consistency to show up for a long period of time, right? It's the exact same thing. So if you understand what happens in the bedroom, you connect that to the outside world, you'll understand why you want a man to be steady. You want him to last. You want him to have stamina. You don't want him to get screwed over and then give up at any given time. You want him to be steady, consistent, because his consistency allows your peace. It allows your security. It allows you not having to worry about yourself, about your future, about food, shelter, whatever needs to happen. Oh my gosh, you don't want to ever go through that. So it's crucial that he's steady. He has a steady hand, right? That's what you want. And of course, precise. Boom. He knows what he wants, and he gets it. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. I hope you got tons of value out of this video. For those that are watching that are men, please subscribe to the Men of High Value channel. I've got great content there for you to help you to prepare yourself for this 3 in Love relationships. And for you women, know that we are coming. Like we're getting there, okay? And the community of Men of High Value men that are there right now, they're great, but we all still suck, which is our fault, but we're improving. And as we improve, we'll improve faster than any other men on the planet because we're practicing the correct principles and we're all being coached. We're all going in the right direction. And within a year, within 18 months, within 2 years, we're going to have men for the majority of women who sign up to this process. Comment down below if this is awesome. And if this is horrible, also comment down below. Let's see if anyone has written anything. If not, sayonara.